Talk about kind of where you guys, your family, your work ethic, where that came from, and then how you're using it today. Can you see that in frame? Yeah, looks great. All right, what's this?
Pittsburgh Plate Glass. People probably know PPG from their paint work at this point, but they were founded on automotive plate glass. So literally giant furnace that melts sand and other things. I forget the other chemicals, but turns it into long sheets of glass, then cuts and scores it, gets packed up. Used to be packed by hand, but my grandparents both worked at this factory, and they worked swing shifts. They worked 7 days straight of 8 to 4, 1 day off, 7 days straight of 4 to 12, 2 days off, 7 days straight of midnight till 8, and then they got 4 days off and repeated. For 20 plus years, they both did that and retired it from there.
God bless.
But they both had their own entrepreneurial efforts on top of that. My grandfather ran a tax business. Fun story. It's mostly Amish people where he's from. So some of the tax deals I get my bartering from.
Yeah.
He trades horse manure for his garden in exchange for doing the Amish people's taxes at times. So that's a fun little part of the business that I picked up as I trade headshots for dental work at time and stuff like that. My grandfather, in addition to that, on my paternal side, had a rod and reel repair business. So he hunted, fished, trapped, sold pelts, repaired people's rods. And that was like a portion of the house was added on to do that. So you get the tax strategy of that side of things going on. And it's just, it was an inspiration to go like, yeah, you can find other ways to find a lifestyle business that allows you to make sure the kids have Christmas gifts, to make sure the kids, when they go to college, can get a $50 pizza money sent to them, that they were always really working hard to make sure our family wasn't below the poverty line in some kind of way. So I'm really grateful for that. And when we went to talk today, I thought about them in that way. One, because my grandpa does taxes, you guys do taxes, so that's a fun story. He's always wanted me to take it over. I have no interest in running a tax business, but he's always like, I'm going to quit doing this someday. He's retired. He's like almost 70 and he still does taxes just because what else is he going to do on that side of things? But none of that became, I need to run the biggest business so I can scale it and sell it. It never became any of that. It was just a mode for them to be the best members of their family that they could. Take that responsibility.
Would you consider that the real wealth?
I think so. They're the two mentors that I look up to the most.
Happy people?
Yeah.
Not the wealthiest?
Not the wealthiest. No inheritance was handed down to me, but inherited some lessons in that way.
Which I think means more than anything. I think for the longest time, I was, nepotized at my job making $11 an hour from my dad. And it took almost 4 years for me to realize that it wasn't about money in the first place. It was the fact that I was a window away listening to his little mic-isms through the window about how he spoke to clients, how he empathized with clients, how we can take our skills that, I'm not laying brick. I work in the air condition and then I work in the heat, guys. It is, you see this haircut? This is not a haircut for outside work. So taking that and shifting to where you can empathize and work with people who are out there putting themselves and their bodies on the line to like feed their families every day.
And I got a real wind of that. It turned out the synchronicity of all things, this ended up being my college job. So when college was ending in the summers, I got to go work there for 4 summers and work the swing shifts. Now a lot more of it is automated. It wasn't as brutal as they had it, but it was tough. But also another lesson of like, a role model standing up for you. I got turned down in the interviews. They said, no, we're not interested in having you for our summer program. And my grandfather went in there and was like, both grandpas retired from here. You are not going to not hire this guy. But he had built up enough sway and loyalty from that company that I ended up getting hired afterwards. So like his efforts at that company paid off as an investment long-term for me to be able to go there. That $10 an hour in the summer, we made a bunch of money to take back to college, and that wouldn't have happened without that investment he made early on in one company.
What else you got in your bag, big dog?
You want to go to the Grandpa Tom's coonskin cap?
Yeah, there you go. Look at that.
We also made some money sometimes. We would go to the like creek area. You kick around with hip waders till you find a hole. You set a trap, catch some muskrats.
There you go.
Set a couple out to get the coon skins, and you sell those. You make a little extra cash on the side.
I love that.
There's a way they did that. And then I don't think you knew it when you came up with, or Darren knew it when he came up with the cover of the podcast, but this is one of the few things that have been passed down to me is my grandfather handed me down a pocket watch, and it's probably only worth a couple $100, but I keep it. It's something like you talked about, that Depression era where something that was important to him that he handed down to me.
Yeah.
Taxes.
Taxes. Time is the real wealth at the end of the day. What a blessing it is to be surrounded by people who have invested in you, both financially, spiritually, with their education, wisdom, stories. The wisdom that we learn from those around us is so easily, especially when you're early in life, you just let it go. And it's not anything you do on purpose. You're just a kid. But the older I get, the more I love to talk to older people and just say, how'd you do it? How'd you get here? And then you let them talk. They've been waiting their whole lives.
Yeah.
You got to be careful asking an old person, how are you? Because they'll tell you. And it's a long story, and they're not doing very good. They've been to the doctor 4 times this week. But if you ask somebody, I've got this older client in my office. He's 90, 92, something like that. And he still carries around the same picture from his wife when she was 16 years old. It is bruised, battered, beat up, and she had passed last year. And he cried as he pulled it out of his... but that's what he remembered her as, was 16-year-old kids. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things that you hope through the small little, how'd you make it to 62 years of marriage, that you can take your little bit, put a spin on it, and refocus that to where your kids someday won't just remember Christmas presents, birthday presents, their first car. They can say, my parents told me these funny stories. My dad was hilarious. You know, like these little things that as you reallocate your time to where you find at the end, you may not have $6 million you're taking 4% out of every single year to pay your, bills, but maybe it's just the fact that you are able to tell your war stories to the kids around a campfire and you have enough people sitting at your bedside the day you pass.
Yeah.
That's the goal, at least I believe. And there's no way to hit that if you rob Peter now by pulling all that time away from your kids, those moments, those small things. At the end of your life, when we go and we start to, look at it at a much broader scope, you can say, I really want to build these eulogy level qualities that people talk about me at my funeral that I'll never get to hear.
Sure.
Not resume qualities, eulogy qualities. Darren, that you might have caught that from a sermon from Aaron Brockett back in 2025. But that's what's on my last piece of my goal list is what I want to achieve. And it says eulogy level qualities is I just want to pour in enough. Not that people talk about me, but that you can instill those values into the people that you get to spend time with.